So I'd like to suggest this. So any expert will tell you, and I'm sure you've heard it before, that the diseases that we predominantly suffer from today are lifestyle diseases. Diseases that we inflict upon ourselves by eating too much, usually of the wrong food, and moving too little. And a lot of the diseases we have today can be avoided if we were to change that. So here's the big one now. I'd like to suggest a user pays strategy. So what that means is this. When we look at healthcare, for example, fast food, cigarettes, alcohol, when we look at all those products, we don't need those. Yet those products contribute to the epidemic that we call obesity today and the poor health of the majority of people. Now, at the end of the day, you might say, I'm not in poor health. Really? Really, you're not in poor health? What, is it normal at 40 to have trouble sitting on the ground and getting back up? Is it normal at 40 to have trouble walking? Have a look around you. The majority of people have trouble doing basic things. The government recommends, what is it, 10,000 steps a day? How many people do 10,000 steps a day as an average? That means 70,000 a week. I didn't say you went for a walk today and you did 10,000 steps and wow, I've done my minimum. No, that is an average every day of the week to maintain basic health. The fact of the matter is the majority of people in this country and most other countries are not doing it. So because of this lack of control, if people continue to do this, the rate of growth of the issues that we need to deal with from a health perspective will continue to grow relative to how much lack of control we have in what we eat and how we move. So it's fair to say that in the event that we do not control our eating habits and our exercise habits, we'll continue to get unhealthier, which means we'll have a greater burden on the health system, which means the ones that are unhealthier are going to need the health system more. So why don't they pay more for that? And the ones that are healthy pay less. But how does this happen? How do we do that? Well, I've got a pretty good solution for that. But in order to first choose who, we need to have a plan. So the example I've brought up, what have I called it here? Yeah, that's right. It's called the annual health inspection. So what I'm suggesting is this. Annually, we all, every single citizen, turns up to our local GP and we do a basic health assessment. Now, what does that involve? That involves a measurement of your waist, a measurement of your weight, and your body fat percentage. I'm sure there are other means. Everyone's heard of the BMI and all that sort of stuff, but that stuff is ludicrous when it comes to someone who's healthy and exercises and not normal, because they're not normal people. Most people don't exercise and most people don't eat healthy. And therefore, someone can be of the right height and they're 5 kilos too heavy because they have more muscle in their body than an average individual. And so the BMI would say to that person who looks fine and has healthy blood pressure and all the other things that we measure health by, would be in the overweight range. And we know that's all wrong. So a more realistic view is to take someone's waist measurement, the girth, circumference. You do a skin fold test. In other words, you measure the folds of their skins. Now, if they have folds of skins, you need to have excess fat. So you're measuring fat. And, of course, you measure their weight. And those three things combined will determine whether someone needs to do something for their health or whether they shouldn't. Assuming, and I can come up with all those figures if you want, assuming that test is actually done and you are deemed to be in the unhealthy group, okay, well that means then that you would be encouraged to lose weight in terms of fat, and that'll be done by referring you to a nutritionist or a dietitian or a suitable person that will educate you in what food you should eat, which I can tell you that now, and I will later on. When that education is then done, the onus is up to you then to do something about it. Now, as we know, we can't force you to do anything. And of course, we all have the freedom to choose. And I'm not saying take that away. I believe all fast food stores should continue to exist. I don't believe we take anything that we have in this country away today, ever. We should have the choice to be able to utilise it. It's about being responsible when we utilise it. We all have fast cars, but it doesn't mean we all drive fast, do we? We all have cars as a weapon. We don't run people over, do we? We might have guns as a sport. We don't, walk around shooting people, do we? So it's all about being responsible. So those that are in that unfortunate category are going to be encouraged to exercise, eat regularly, and have irregular checks with their GP to check their progress. Now next year, the same sort of time, they will do this again. They'll go back again and they'll do another check. The objective is to move towards your goal. If they're still considered to be that way, well then they'll still be encouraged to do these things. Now this is where the crux is, okay. They're just simply told that they're overweight or unhealthy or outside a healthy range. They're not labelled as anything wrong. There's no penalties or anything. Now, where I'm suggesting we make changes is, I believe, on all fast food, and I'll list all the stuff for you basically, on all fast food and all foods that we shouldn't eat, and I'll cover that, right? There should be a tax, a substantial tax. And that tax will be imposed on all those foods. So if I choose to have foods that I know are not good for me, or I choose to smoke a cigarette, or I choose to consume alcohol, yes, alcohol, well then, the tax will be quite high on those items. And that tax, the amount, will go to a fund. So it's like a goods and services tax, but for everything that we should not be doing. And everything we should be doing doesn't have that. And the reality of life is that already exists today. And I'll cover that shortly. So this tax goes into a fund, and that's used to provide health care for everyone. It's a user pays strategy. Now, the Australian government has a system called the GST, the Goods and Services Tax, okay? Now, when they did that, they made certain foods exempt. Now, these are foods that we must have. Now, I've just written this down. And they call it the most basic food for human consumption should be GST free. And these foods are, I'll just read these out to you. They include fresh fruit and vegetables, raw unsalted nuts, spices, rice, pasta, meats, as long as they're fresh, chicken, whole fresh fish, canned fish, eggs, cheese, fats and oils, soup, bread, infant formula, breakfast cereals, simple breakfast cereals, milk, tea, coffee, sugar, fruit and vegetable juice, but it has to be at least 90% minimum volume by juice. So the government's already gone out now and they've made this list. Now, if you eat that, if you eat those foods, you will be healthy. Now, think of what I said. Now, you can still go to the government, I'm sure there's a website somewhere, and you can look at the list of foods that are exempt and the ones that aren't. Now, they've already listed the foods that are good for us. Fruits, vegetables, lean meats, nuts, seeds, grains, the healthy oils, all that sort of stuff, the fish, it's all there. That's what we should be eating. So they're already GST free. All I'm suggesting is let's increase the tax on all other foods, all alcohol, all tobacco, and anything that is not in that list. And that money will then go to creating this fund, which will now provide the care. Cool?